All right, we have new trade rumblings around Vooch and the possibility of the Lakers maybe being interested in Vooch. We're going to be doing a trade update around Vooch and what this means for the Chicago Bulls as they get ready to continue on and move closer to the upcoming trade deadline. This is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and you have found yourself on another episode of Bulls Digest. And so today we are looking at the most recent trade rumblings around Vooch. And so this comes via Clutch Sports. And so it looks like that the Lakers now might have some interest in a possible Vooch deal. And so let's go ahead and jump into what was said here. And so you can find this on Clutch Sports. This is under Brett Siegel, who writes for Clutch Sports. And in this article, to give you full context, he's talking about the first apron, the second apron, and how that really is going to really impact teams as we head into the trade season. He does mention players like Brandon Ingram. He's talking about the situation with Jimmy Butler and how that really ties into Phoenix. And he also does talk about, this 5-team deal that was thrown out there as well. But not to jump too far off topic, I want to talk more so into what we heard from this situation with the Lakers and Vooch. And so this is what you can pretty much find everywhere. I'm sure the snippets are out there, but this is in the actual article where they had gotten word that the Lakers might be highly interested in Vooch, pretty much paraphrasing this. But I think this is where it gets interesting when he's talking a little bit more as to the details and maybe what the Lakers might be willing to offer here. And so he's saying, look, in a trade scenario, more than likely the Lakers are looking to part ways with Gabe Vincent. He talks about Jared Vanderbilt, Jalen Hood-Schifino as the primary players that the Lakers would be willing to move off of. But this is a critical point when he says that the Lakers would maybe has been hesitant, I should say, to explore the possibility of trading Hacimura and also first round draft assets. And so let's go ahead and put a pin in that right there. And so starting with this, we know that the Lakers definitely for sure have some interest in a big man, not just from what we're hearing from Brett Siegel of Clutch Sports, but this goes into what Anthony Davis just said with Shams there on ESPN, where he was asked like, hey, do you think that this team needs to make some more moves or whatever the questioning was? And Anthony Davis says, look, I think that we should get a big. And he also said that he feels that he plays his best when he's at the 4. He mentioned having JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard in the bubble when they won the championship and how that works. And so that lets you know the thinking from Anthony Davis and what he's thinking about. I know we've heard rumblings from LeBron James as well. We don't know what Rob Pelinka and these guys want to do, don't know. We don't cover the Lakers here. We cover the Chicago Bulls. And so what I'm trying to say is that there's probably definitely, I think, some smoke there. I think that, yes, this would make sense for the Lakers if this is what they want. If they want to get a big that is going to move Anthony Davis over to the 4, you get 2 players that definitely can knock down shots from the outside. We know what Anthony Davis can do inside. We know how he can probably help defensively with Vooch. And so they would have somewhat of a big 3. I understand that. But my issue here with this is that I think the Bulls don't necessarily do this deal if you're not talking about the first round draft picks, because that is something that we're hearing that the Bulls might be interested in. Who knows? Nobody knows with this front office, but we've heard those rumblings that they would want a first round pick for Vooch. Totally understandable. He's playing at an all-star level. I think any team that he goes to, I think he's going to be an immediate impact. And if you're trading for him, you feel like he's going to be an immediate impact that can really significantly take your team up in the standings and help you make a run. And I think also, too, for me, if I were going to back off the first round draft picks and take on, say, second round picks. So if you were to come at me and say, okay, I'm willing to give you multiple 2025 second round picks for Vooch, but I would want the younger player as well. I want Hacimura. If we were to do that type of deal, I'm definitely interested in that, because with Hacimura, I feel like it's an added bonus to the trade. And I'm not saying that he's going to be a player that is going to take you from being a play-in type of player. Or a play-in type of team, excuse me. But what I am trying to say is it actually makes sense from a roster build standpoint, and it actually helps you transition more for the long term. Like, it's a trade that makes sense because you can take those second round picks, you can use it in a deep draft, or you could package those up, maybe get into the late first round. But with Hacimura, the added bonus that you get out of this is that he comes to you on a deal where he's making $17 million for 2 years. He's 26 years old, so he definitely fits the timeline of what you're building. I think he works well with Giddey, Kobe White, Ayo, Modest, even Patrick Williams, Jalen Smith, whoever you're looking to keep on the team. I think that he can definitely help you there. He's also a wing, so somebody that is not a guard, not a guard. He's a wing. He also can knock down the shot, and he plays defense. Right now, with Hacimura, he's averaging 12.2 points a game, 5.2 rebounds a game, 1.2 assists a game, and he's shooting the basketball at 49.1% from the field, and he's also knocking down threes at 41.1 from downtown, which is definitely something that you want, especially on a team that is looking to really prioritize the three-point shot. And I think he immediately comes in and he would actually push Patrick Williams, I think, to the bench, because Patrick Williams at this point in time of this recording, he averages 9.3 points a game, 3.8 rebounds a game, 2.1 assists a game. But more importantly, he's just shooting 37.7 from the field and 36.4 from three. And I think that you get more consistency with Hacimura. And Patrick Williams is actually making more than Hacimura. He's making $18 million a year. Hacimura is only at $17 million. So I think that you get a player that actually helps you pivot off of Patrick Williams if necessary, which is what you want. You want to have an insurance plan. You're getting the picks and you have an insurance plan that helps you move off of Patrick Williams. And so I think that that is where the win-win situation is for me. If you take on a player like Vanderbilt, he's a player that, yes, defensively he can defend. I understand that. But he has often been hurt. He's making $10.7 million for 4 years. I get that he's 25 years old. I'm definitely concerned with the injuries. With Gabe Vincent as well, he hasn't done much of anything, in my opinion, since he left the Miami Heat. He's at $11 million for 2 years at 28 years old. I don't necessarily think that I look at those players and say, man, that's a positive asset. I don't see that. I don't want my front office to take on a negative asset, and they've really shown that they don't know what to do, with assets. And so you certainly don't want to take on a negative asset in which maybe teams are probably not going to want. With Gabe Vincent, he's also a guard, so I don't like that. With Jalen Hood-Schifino, I understand it at $3.8 million for a year. He's probably gone after a season, so I do understand an expiring contract there, but the other two players, I do not like that, which is something that is also pointed out furthermore into this article, because he talks about the fact that if the Chicago Bulls were to take on a player like Vanderbilt, as you can see for yourself, they would look to attempt to send him elsewhere. He mentions a team like the Dallas Mavericks because they would maybe be looking for a player that can actually give them a little bit more defensively at that forward position. But like the Chicago Bulls, or I think anybody, you would have to look at the injury concerns and the contract and really wonder, is it really worthwhile? But I think what is most interesting about what Brett Siegel says is at the end when he says, look out for Jalen Smith as a buy low target. And so I don't like that at all. I don't think that he should necessarily be moved, especially if you're moving off of Vooch. I would like to keep Jalen Smith around. I think that I've seen enough from him that suggests that I'm not going to cringe if he has to start for me. And I think that if you do have to start him for a little bit of time, for the last 30 some games or whatever the case may be after the trade deadline, I think you have the time that you in free agency and also too via the draft. Hopefully, if you're able to get the draft picks, you can address that. And I think that Jalen Smith is a player that certainly fits with what you want to do. He's shown that he can run the floor. He's shown that he can knock down shots. At times, he's had some nice block shots. I'm not saying that that is something that he's always going to do, but I think he could do more of it if you give him the opportunity out there. So Jalen Smith, not a player that I would want to see moved. And I get he's talking about the Mavs and their whole luxury tax situation and everything else. But I mean, just based off what we're talking about with the Lakers and that situation, bottom line is Hacimura would have to come in order for me to even consider taking something other than a first round pick. And still, I would want a first round pick. I'm not interested in necessarily helping the Lakers, but if this front office decided to do it, I'm just giving you maybe a scenario in which maybe it does make sense for the long term here. And lastly, just going into what we already knew with the Golden State Warriors, this kind of goes into what Casey Johnson said here before that Golden State Warriors game, is just that, they're kind of going back and forth, kind of doing a little dancing, so to speak, just paraphrasing that. And that kind of goes right in line with what Evan Sidery had to say. He actually writes for Forbes. We've talked about him before, but this was his tweet that he's saying that at this point in time, the Golden State Warriors are looking to give up second-round picks and not necessarily that first-round picks that maybe the Bulls are looking for him. And I get it from Golden State's standpoint. I think that the bottom line for them is if they get Vooch, they understand it's probably a good fit. But I think that they're looking more long-term, and they're thinking to themselves like they don't want to burn through so much draft capital that they can't make any more moves in the offseason, because Vooch is probably going to be, I think, maybe one move out of a couple more moves for the Golden State Warriors to really maximize their window. I don't think that Vooch is necessarily going to be that guy that's going to be everything for them. I think that they still probably need to make another move, especially if they're going to be giving up expiring contracts, because these expiring contracts, I know that they're expiring contracts, but Looney, Gary Payton II, these guys have won titles. They've done something that Vooch has not done. And I think that that has to really play into maybe what the Golden State Warriors are thinking. I think that they value championship type of players and players that have been there to the top, which is probably why they're hesitant on a player like Andrew Wiggins. I know we're probably looking from the outside in and saying, well, man, he's kind of been maybe inconsistent injury, stuff like that. But for them, he's a guy that's helped them win titles. Kevon Looney, he's always shown up for them when they've needed it, even though he's been struggling as of late. And Gary Payton II as well. And so I think that that maybe is the issue here. And we'll see what happens. I think like a lot of this stuff, it's going to come down to the actual trade deadline. And really, just when you get to that deadline, it's going to be the willingness and just really finding out exactly what do the Chicago Bulls do. I think one of the things that is mentioned in this piece too by Brett Siegel is that right now the Bulls are really kind of driving up the price and doing a little bit of a bidding war to see what is going to be the best offer. And so I certainly understand that. The Chicago Bulls, I don't think, should be in situations where they're selling low on any of their players, but they also don't want to, I think, really, kind of outbid themselves out of the market by making it too high, if that makes sense. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about this most recent trade news and updates around Vooch. Do you think that, yes, Vooch is going to be moved to the Golden State Warriors? You think that maybe Golden State is eventually going to give out that first round draft compensation? Or what do you think about this Lakers noise? Like, I mean, all this stuff is speculation, but are you in agreements that, look, man, if they're not going to give up the first round pick, you at least have to give up a younger player that maybe fits the Bulls timeline, and perhaps maybe you can get some 2025 second round picks or something like that. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And before we go ahead and get to it, I just want to say, look, the Bulls are not getting Anthony Davis. They're not getting Dalton Connect. They're not getting Austin Reeves. That's not going to happen, because I know we're going to get those comments. But anyway, I just want to thank everybody out there for liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. It means a lot to us here as we try to reach our goal of 5,000 subscribers by the end of the NBA season out there. And I just want to let you know that about 66.8% of you that watch are not subscribed to the channel. So make sure that you go ahead and you slam dunk on that subscribe button like Modest Mazelis is going to do in the slam dunk contest. But anyway, before we jump out of here, like I always say, look, the bottom line is the Chicago Bulls have got to really go out there and you got to trade with a purpose. Like I said, if you're going to trade with the Lakers, they're not going to give you the picks that you need, then you better be getting some young assets that, you can certainly move off of, or pieces that maybe they do fit with your timeline, and maybe it's a player like what we're seeing with AK, where he takes chances with some of these younger players that have been proven, and they maybe just need an opportunity. I think that that's something to maybe monitor with the Hacimura deal. And with the Golden State Warriors, stuff like that, it's all about just staying true to what you're looking for and just saying like, hey, if you want it bad enough and you feel like this player is going to be that player that takes you to, the next level, then you're going to have to come off of the draft capital, because we know what the expiring contracts are going to do. If you're not going to give up Kuminga, you're not going to give up some of these younger pieces, you need to give us the draft assets. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you're thinking. And as we always say, go Bulls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.